Today we're going to look at what's called space geometry. So we're talking about three-dimensional figures. I did list the homework next. It is straight out of your book. But the reason I did that is because you'll see the rest of your notes, on the left side it'll be the definition of the shape, and on the right side then will be labeling the figure. So I tried to make the notes flow better, so that's why your homework is listed next. So I'm going to go through each of the shapes and we're going to label some important parts. Our first shape is called a prism. Okay, so a prism has two polygon bases. Okay, so it can be any polygon. The bases have to be parallel. All of the faces, meaning the non-bases, are rectangles. So, for instance, in this one right here, this would be referred to as a pentagonal prism. The pentagons are the bases, because it can be any polygon, whereas, so this one back here in the back is also a pentagon, whereas the rectangles that you see here, those are all faces with an F. When it comes to square prisms or rectangular prisms, or a cube if you want to call it a cube, it doesn't really matter which one you call the base and which one you call the face. The time it's really important is when you have a non-rectangular base. So again, that's called, the one we just looked at was called a pentagonal prism. So when we look at a prism, in our case here, for our purpose today, we're going to refer to this as a base down here. Okay, so then if that's a base, then remember our bases are parallel to each other. So this rectangle up here is also going to be considered a base. The next line down refers to where the two faces meet. It's called an edge. The third one down refers to this big rectangle here, and that is called a face with an F. And finally, the sharp point there is called a vertex. Our next shape is called a cylinder. So a cylinder has two bases. They're both circles. Okay, the bases again have to be parallel, and the face is really just one large rectangle. Think about it like a can of soup. Like if I were to take a can of soup, cut down the label like this and unwrap it, it just makes one big rectangle. Right? So let's name parts. So the top, the base here is always going to be a circle, but it is a base. The face is like the big soup label. And because we have a circle, that dotted line there is a radius. The next shape is a cone. Okay, so a cone only has one base now, and it is always going to be a circle. And instead of a second base, it all comes to a point called the vertex point. So we just talked about this. This has to be my vertex. That point is the vertex. The dotted line down the middle, that is the height or the altitude. The height or the altitude of the cone. Now this next piece here, it's referring to, like if I could climb to the top of the cone and slide down this on a sled, okay, that is referred to as the slant height. The symbol we use for slant height is a cursive L. Our base there is a circle. So again, it's a base. And because it's a cone, it's always going to be a circle. And then finally, because we have a circle, we have a radius. Another shape with only one base is a pyramid. So the base can be any polygon. So this one up here is going to be a triangular pyramid. This is a pentagonal pyramid. This would be a rectangular pyramid. Okay, again, it comes to a point, and that point is called the vertex. So the point up top, we just said is the vertex. The next line down is referring to that dotted line going right through the center. That's still the height or the altitude. The next line down refers to where those triangle faces. That's another point to make. All these faces are going to be triangles. Okay, so it's where the triangle faces are intersecting. That's called an edge. So maybe make a note that all pyramids have triangle faces. The next one down refers again to this dotted line here. That is a slant height, again, like sledding down the side. It's called the slant height. Oops, sorry about that. Slant height. Again, we call that an L. And then finally we have a base, and it can be any polygon. The last shape is a sphere. Okay, so typically this is how we draw a sphere. We don't kind of have to draw in like that equator, but it is truly one continuous smooth surface. The only thing really to label in our sphere is, because it's a circle, that is called a radius. And the center of that circle is also the center of the sphere. And that's it. So you're going to work on your homework. It won't take you very long. It's more about shape recognition and identifying parts.